Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, or good morning, depending on where you are in the country. This is Rick Levine from UniformMarket. We really appreciate you joining us today for our discussion about online marketing, specifically about the use of social media, and specifically about use of social media within the uniform industry. If you do have questions, you can enter them in the GoToWebinar control panel that you have on your screen somewhere. We will try to address and answer the questions either individually back to you, or we will share the question with the group as we go. An overview of what we're going to talk about today. First, we will tell you who we are for those of you who are not familiar with UniformMarket and perhaps learned about the webinar from our social media posts. Next, we'll talk about why bother to market online using social media at all. Next, what are the ways to use social media within our particular industry, within the uniform industry. We'll talk about general concepts, and then I'm going to go to real-world live examples, and we'll look at what companies are doing right now. What are some current trends for social media marketing? And then a couple of examples of social media management tools. And then questions, although I would encourage questions to happen throughout as they may be relevant to a particular topic that we're discussing in the moment. UniformMarket has been around 8 years, 9 years at this point. We exclusively help companies in the uniform, footwear, and gear space. We've launched thousands of online stores. We roll it up into these categories. I imagine most of you on this today fall into one of these or multiple categories. We help people with their B2C public stores, as well as manage many private stores for uniform programs. Software does that, that is. We also offer brand syndication in our product. That means that leading catalogs from the industry, we maintain a giant library of products, and we feed that data into authorized dealers and distributors from these brands. And it assists the users and our customers in keeping all of that data up to date. We do assist some customers directly with their social media. However, you will see from the discussion today and the things I talk about, there is so much related to this particular type of customer service and interaction between you and your customers that it's very difficult to outsource that type of activity at all. So why bother with social media at all? For many, maybe it's just simply something the next generation does with their time. I know certainly my children now claim that Facebook is something my generation does and not their generation. They're on to the next thing. But for our purposes, for you as business owners or managers, department heads, marketers, sellers, social media offers these three benefits that are very important. First is this very good way to speak to your customers outside of your place of business without running advertising. While there is now advertising on social media, the vast majority of users don't think of social media in terms of advertising. So this is a great way to talk to them without them feeling like they're being advertised to, and we'll talk about how to honor that and capitalize on that. This is also a great way to show that your customers that you're involved in their community. You're not just someone that sells them a three-dimensional product, a scrub, a belt, a cap, a vest. You are someone that shares their common interests, and that's exemplified in the ways that they see your company interacting with the outside world, not interacting with you and them as a shopper at your physical place of business. Lastly, nothing to do with your shoppers, social media has become a predominant, a leading way to build on search engine optimization and to attract inbound activity and links into your website. The search engines like it and shoppers like it. So these three themes will continue to play through the rest of our discussion today. As you can see, we don't have a lot of slides. So the next three, though, we will spend a good amount of time on. Actually, the next four. My apologies. 7, 8, and 9, we're going to talk about the real world and examples. In preparing for the talk today, I realized there's going to be people who may join us who are sophisticated marketers and know exactly what social media is all about and are looking for gems of wisdom that UniformMarket may be able to offer for our particular industry. But there may be also some of you out there who are not entirely sure what social media even is. So the Wikipedia textbook definition these days is that it's social interaction among people where you create, share, and exchange information in a virtual community or a network. What does all that mean? It means all of these. It means Facebook. It means LinkedIn. It means Twitter. Many people don't realize that Twitter was actually originally started as a communication, not as a broadcast device. It was going to be still short and sweet asynchronous communication between two parties. Most of what we see and know of Twitter is a one-way feed where companies are just feeding information out and not really getting much interaction back. We're used to thinking in terms of Facebook as interactive. And LinkedIn is used by a subset of everyone within this world, and predominantly salespeople and marketing people. But there are a lot of others that are on LinkedIn and pay attention to LinkedIn and use LinkedIn groups for their interests in the world, and all of that can play a nice role in your social media activities. For our industry, we absolutely recommend that you concentrate solely on the top three: Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. There are many revolutionary ones out there as well. The younger folks and the hipsters will be telling us what that next revolution is. For our industry, we highly recommend concentrating on these three. There's several studies that I'll quote today. One from Adobe, their index, their social media index, and the other is the Social Media Examiner. Both studies recently that I will reference today with various statistics. They're reporting that marketers, when forced to choose among the platforms, 54% will always lean on Facebook, and then the next largest would be LinkedIn. So if you only have a couple of hours a week to concentrate on social media, the smart option is to concentrate on those two first, followed lastly by LinkedIn. So if let's go on to the next one. So the ways that we use social media need to be thought of differently than how you do your general marketing, and yet at the same time must incorporate and drive the agenda of what your company and your initiatives are within your general marketing. So it presents a unique challenge to us as salespeople, as business owners, as marketers. So just as we've talked about in previous webinars, and you're used to UniformMarket encouraging again and again to use location and geography as a very important element in all of your online activities. We're going to say the same thing when it comes to social media. One of the strongest ways that you can connect with your customers online in all ways, including social media and especially social media, is to talk about news in your area, to talk about events of interest to you as a member of that community, your staff as members of that community, your business as members of that community, and ultimately your customers as members of that community. So feature shoppers. What shoppers of yours or what departments in the area or what B2B companies do you do business with? Promote them on your social media. They'll promote you on theirs. Everyone wins. And the word promote even has a negative connotation in the context with which I am describing right now. This dovetails right into what an important ingredient would be, is to keep it friendly. It should not ever feel like promotions. It is promotions. We're all adults, unless you happen to sell school uniforms. Maybe you have that constituency. But for the most part, it's all adults. They know when they're being sold to and when they're not being sold to. Honesty, clarity, transparency, all the way around is very important in social media. It's very important in your marketing period, of course. But in social media, it becomes especially important. So when you talk about the schools in the area, talk about children in your area, talk about holidays that are happening, events that are happening, don't talk about it in ways that you would not if you were standing there in person talking to that customer at your place of business, at one of your retail locations. Keep it friendly. Keep the tone in the same manner that you would if you were having a conversation with them. Let's look at a couple of examples. Here is a company out west, Blumenthal Uniform. They have multiple retail locations. I will not know a lot about every company that we will feature. I just happen to know something about Blumenthal. So here, right now, an hour ago, are you participating in Operation Blue Monday? Well, what does that have to do with actually purchasing an item at a Blumenthal retail store? Not much. The point, and then the next one is, well, okay, hey, we're also having a sale. We're also going to have these 511 items available. So I've consistently seen Blumenthal. Here's something about a long-time Redmond police chief that made the news. Unfortunately, this is bad news, but it shows that they are members of the community, that they care about the community, that they're as interested in the lives of their customers as they are in selling things to their customers. Very important ingredients. The key ingredient, I would actually amend that to be, in social media is connecting with your constituents, with your customers, with your the stakeholders that will talk about your business out there in the community. Let's look at another one. Las Vegas Uniforms. Just a friendly reminder to stop by and save. Okay, it's a sale, yes, but it's very conversational. It's not a giant banner with, you know, here's a happy birthday. I guess that's a happy birthday to themselves, but kind of presented in a fun way. This is a lot of text. Here's a very nice use of, so this was a few days ago that they just took a quick snapshot at the store. You know, many people that we talk to believe that it takes a lot of time to do what we've been discussing. But if you've ever stood at, these days, anywhere in the world, you stand in line to get coffee and you see people on their cell phones, and what are the chances that they're on Facebook these days? It's pretty high. So the ability to do things quickly and in moments that you wouldn't expect, I would encourage you to think in terms of why shouldn't your staff be encouraged to snap a picture and post it on Facebook if they had an interesting conversation with a shopper about why this particular boot was better than this particular boot. Somebody could post that. And then, you know what I'd encourage? End the post with saying, what do you think? This random little post here about shoes already has 54 people liking it. That's amazing. You know, you send out flyers and postcards and you hope 54 people, sometimes depending on how many you're sending out, you hope 54 people respond to it. So I really like this, the way this company is doing it. Here's a national provider. So this is, you know, Cintas has the double challenge of trying to act local. So here's a story just an hour ago about a local partner of theirs, you know, as well as then trying to think nationally. So that's a challenge for national operators. That's a challenge for anyone that operates across a large geographic area. What I do like, just to pick on this one little post, is that they did identify the location right away. We really like that they used a large picture. Okay, so you're actually seeing in real time here, this was just posted an hour ago, very good examples of how to use social media. Google especially rewards media. Media can be considered anything that is a picture, anything that's a video, anything outside of text can be considered media, and Google very much rewards that. And why is Google rewarding that? Because statistically, your visitors are also rewarding it. More clicks happen because of visuals. So that's true on an e-commerce website based on your product images. It's true on social media based on your posts. These posts here where there's nice visuals will get more attention every single time than posts that are solely text-based. This is a nice one also, is a giveaway. Social media is a great way for you to encourage a giveaway, a poll of some type. Let's look at, here's a public safety one. So this is a little more text-based. So here's an offer, get 10% off. That's selling, that's fine. But then here's a nice, interesting, looks like a local, one of the best Vine. So Vine is another type of social media. So they're actually referencing a video from another social media outlet within this, and that will get very nice attention. Linking to existing videos. Oh, this was why I had picked this one to feature today, because yesterday when I was looking for examples, I saw they did this. I love this one. Have you seen the world's most expensive police car? So for a public safety shop to feature fun items about common interest is very recommended. It will win every time. So that is, those are very good examples of what we've been looking at here to create brand personality. So all of these that I've been discussing down here are in the business relative to creating personality relative to your brand. Keeping it friendly, expressing the same culture that you would express if they were visiting your store. How do you encourage your staff to make customers feel when they enter your store? Keep the same cheerful culture you foster online. And that is hard to do on a website, but you will find it a freeing experience in your ability to execute that sensation in social media. It may take time for you to develop a flavor for how you like to do it, but it is not just about posting your next sale. It can't be, or you will only get people looking at the site when they know that they're shopping for a particular deal. But your customers are going to social media because they feel like being social. They feel like engaging in an activity that doesn't feel like work. But a lot of times when we're engaging in activities that feel more like play, we gravitate towards things that interest us, which are often related, as adults, to the things we do throughout the day, to our work life. So they will like your page and keep track of it because it does relate to the things that they're interested in throughout the day. Now you just have to make sure that you also make them smile, which actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. So if that was all about brand personality, let's talk about creating some excitement. So the idea behind creating excitement we've talked a little bit about so far, in the sense of don't make every post about a sale. You do want to offer some serious content. When people are browsing around online, they want to be entertained, and they want to read news. They want to know more about the world than before they had entered a particular website or gone on to a social media outlet. The next thing you should keep in mind then, besides rotating out your content regularly, is to tie it in specifically to your world. So we've talked a little bit about that as well, tying it into where your physical store is, as well as tying it to your online store. But then think about your suppliers, the manufacturers, and the efforts that they have going on out there in the world. Go to your own social media pages, log in as those users, and then like your manufacturers and your suppliers so that your content starts to spread and proliferate throughout. You liking their materials, they're liking your materials, and it will all connect. Your customers will start to see things feeding back and forth, and it encourages the community of activities among the brands that you educate your shoppers about, and that will give the shoppers more confidence in what you're doing. Community activities that you may be involved in at the store. We saw a couple of examples of those. Let's look at a couple of other examples. So if we go here, so here, this is a industrial laundry out west, Prudential. They probably operate in a few states. Here they're talking about social interest activities. Proud member of Clean Green. The back to school season. I've seen a number of posts the past few weeks on, so this is Twitter that we're looking at. We've been looking at Facebook examples. I believe we already saw, well, here I have a couple of other examples too of LinkedIn. So, and then you get back to, after the back to school activity, then you get back to, I like that you get back to a more direct business issue of importance to the Prudential Supply customer, which is the rent, lease, or purchase ongoing decisions that someone using laundry services needs to make and tweak if they're running programs, multi-layered programs. Those are our decisions. So following those links back becomes hugely important. Including those links is hugely important. We're going to talk about that when we get to the SEO section. Let's look at another example. My scrubs. No, this is... sorry, one sec here. Okay. I wanted to show this. I apologize. This was the note that I had made to myself because yesterday And see, they had already had other tweets since then, so I didn't see this to remind me. But here's that example I was talking about earlier. So my scrubs just yesterday has a customer wearing a koi scrub top. Somebody at the store snaps a picture of it. Happy customer wearing her koi by Sunita shoes. Well, actually, this is a polo, so they didn't even shoot the shoes unless they show it further on. My apologies. I needed to click. So now we can actually see the shoes. That makes a heck of a lot more sense. So a great example of in the moment. Anyone at the store could have snapped this with, of course, getting the customer's permission and post it there. What do you think the interest level is going to be for the next person that's browsing around who is going to notice that the shoes were actually selected by another shopper who is happy? I mean, that's huge. That is absolutely huge. So, and this is a company that I don't know how big my scrubs is, but in a short amount of time, since 2012, they've already managed to gain close to 1,200 followers. So that's 1,200 people that just got that message that this customer was happy with that purchase. That's the power of social media, and it took all of a couple of minutes of a staff member's time to snap that photo and post it. Here are a couple of LinkedIn examples. So UniFirst is, again, UniFirst now would be an example of a national. So the local, working off of local news and geography, obviously becomes a different ballgame for them. What I had noticed is they're on LinkedIn, and rather than solely talking about their products and services, they're assuming that folks interested and wandering by are also on LinkedIn because of their own careers. And so I noticed that they're posting some, not only then job openings at UniFirst, but look how they're also, within days of that, posting a helpful link about jumpstarting your career. Or other, why did someone else get your promotion? So I like the way that they're taking a common interest within the context of their job postings and helping to their community in that way. I like that. Some of you might be saying, hey, well, we haven't done any of this yet. These seem like, to me, these seem like sophisticated concepts, UniformMarket, that you've been reviewing. Well, you need to just start somewhere. And here's an example of someone that really is, just started with this. But at least on LinkedIn, there's a nice image, there's nice text. This you can do in a very short amount of time. Right? And the company only has one employee associated with it. But the point is the links back are very good for search engine optimization, and this is a good example for everyone on, well, how to get started. So this is the LinkedIn page for them. And then it starts to get more sophisticated. As you go, then you start to add a lot more, as you saw from this national provider, who then now ends up with 2,500 employees on LinkedIn, right? So not only are they talking to their customers, this is a great way that this company is also then starting to talk to their community of employees, which can even start with groups, much smaller than that. 30, 50, 150 employees, having social media, continuing that corporate culture of what you do to create while they're all on site can continue and be rewarding for them to be able to see that same culture passed on in a social media environment. So some of that is content that is appropriate for LinkedIn. There was a direct question about this as well, about what content is most beneficial on LinkedIn. I would say that It depends on those variables we've been discussing. If you're trying to talk to your employees and you're have an objective of recruitment online, then your content, as UniFirst clearly is demonstrating, perhaps by me noticing what their theme is lately, versus if you're interested in new markets and you particularly are concentrating on hospitality nationally, let's say, or regionally, I would suggest content that's starting to lean into those directions. If I am someone that runs a hospitality firm, let's just say a hotel, motel, restaurant, catering service, I may be bouncing around on LinkedIn using keywords and going through connections, looking around based on things that interest me. So as soon as you start posting content related to that objective of, I would like people to start to think about my company in terms of hospitality more than they do now, there is an example of how you take your larger marketing objectives and you filter them down and drop them into paths that you can follow in your social media activities. So I mentioned that interestingly, on the topic of conversation, I started saying that what your staff recommends, encouraging others in your organization, one thing that we would definitely encourage is to not always have one voice on your social media. We're social for the reason that we like to talk to lots of people, usually. So if you can involve more people in your organization, that will come across as more exciting, more interesting, more other voices being heard. And so staff recommends this boot versus another, but don't just say that, then explain why. The reason might be silly. The reason might be based on color. The reason might be based on a memory that somebody has or a certain affinity to that particular brand for some reason besides the actual boot they happen to be discussing that day. And then certainly the idea of why the shopper preferred, this scrub versus another, or that boot versus another. So polls are a great idea. Things based on seasonal activity, things based on holidays. I mean, there's no limit to the retail themes. The longer that we're all involved in this, retail business of selling, the more themes that we've seen over the years, of course. Let's move on. That's my take on the excitement levels. Let's move to now traffic. So now we get more into the technical side of it. The social media outlets have, as I mentioned at the top, have become an important ingredient in search engine optimization. For those on the webinar that aren't 100% familiar what I mean by that, it means how are you ranking on Google, Yahoo, Bing, and other search engines? How important do they find your pages, and when are they deciding to put your page on that coveted first page of results versus other companies? So Google, it is not surprising, Google over the years continues to refine their algorithms, and it makes perfect sense, as you can imagine, that they base their opinions, their algorithms, on what they see the traffic patterns out there are. But it's not just a question of how many links went back to a site. Okay, in the grand old 1994 days, that may have been the case where certain search engines were simply counting popularity, and by creating, a lot of traffic, you were gaming the system. But the search engines are ridiculously more sophisticated than that now. So what are they looking for? They're looking for content that others in the world are seeing as authoritative and original. And then that content that they see as original and authoritative, what has been the reaction to that content? So by putting certain words that you want to be considered an authority on, certain concepts that you want. If someone were to go to Google and enter certain concept, meaning a phrase, 3 words, you want to use those 3 words as much as possible in your social media, because one, Google catalogs it all. They read it all and they catalog it all and they pay attention, and then as soon as people click on that, that click is almost, it's certainly as important, but it's almost more important to Google in certain cases than is if they clicked on a search result on the actual Google search results page. Why? Because that is not just a link that Google has thrown out there for consideration, right? But this is a collection of keywords and concepts that others out there, based on that collection of words and ideas and images and videos, has clicked on and acknowledged that, hey, this is a concept that makes sense to me for these words. So, you know, uniforms in South Bend, or chef apparel 2014 brand new. I'm extemporaneously, and of course those words aren't very interesting on their own. The challenge for you is to wrap those words into interesting posts and statements, but once you get used to the concept, it's easier than you think. One of the tricks we use around here, of course, is to just keep lists handy. So if you're working on a particular post, and the ability to call up the top 25, words that we're concentrating on for this marketing campaign or for that website or whatever, the words are handy. So, for UniformMarket, we would use words like uniform manufacturer and uniform retailer and uniform catalog, right? Those aren't words that those of you listening to this presentation would use in your posts per se, but as you can appreciate, we would like it if when people enter those online, UniformMarket might be found. Every post should contain a backlink. Another criteria that's very important to the search engines is how many links are going into your website. So this was all based originally on the academic world. So Google values references. Originally in the academic world, the importance of your research paper was based on how many other research papers and academics were referencing your work in their work. So a website has more value to Google when it is referenced by other websites. That's, for those of you that didn't know that background on the internet, that's kind of how backlinks rose in importance in the algorithms of how sites are valued. We mentioned, and I will reiterate, that Google values greatly the rich online experience. They spent a fortune and continue to spend a fortune on YouTube, so it is of course in their own best interest to continue to foster that major asset of theirs, but more importantly is rich media in general, especially as broadband in the workplace and at home expands and has, now a huge part of our daily lives. The ability to play videos and see images easily on a regular basis is no longer an issue online, and everyone enjoys the experience a lot more, so we encourage that. Then next would be the concept of just, outright running ads. So, a couple of examples of what we've been discussing is, so here's Lydia's uniforms. I think does a nice job with visuals. So there's a fun one just from today. There's from yesterday. So that's, that's an actual sale one, but an attractive. Didn't just say the words. They're also putting nice graphics behind each post that they're putting up there. This is very product focused so far. It's all about sales. Although here's something from Confucius. So that's nice. And look at that. So 21 people liked the sale, but I'm telling you, everyone, look at this. 60 people liked the quote from Confucius, and 25 people shared it. So now those, remember that old and then they told two friends, and they told two friends, and then they told two friends. So that cliche is living out in this technology platform world that we live in. So now these 25 shares were just seen by the potentially 2,500 other people that these 25 people know. And then they may say, hey, I like that Confucius quote too, but who the heck is Lydia's Uniforms? And they start clicking around. So you see the power of that. Look at this one, uniforms, etc. Now this one, okay, unfortunately, this is the one that I had flagged to show as an example of what I don't like. And I will say there may be others at UniformMarket that would disagree with me. But the problem I have with this one is this is coming in from a feed, right? Feeds are popular. This one happens to be, looks like it's some kind of eBay feed. So every post is coming in, with the same format, the same type of link. Yes, the visuals are different, and that's nice, but the only reason I'm going to go here more than once or a couple of times a year is when I would have likely already gone to Uniforms, etc. to do my shopping anyway. Because you're not engaging me with this type of structure. You're just telling me about sales. Well, that's fine. Maybe I want to know about your sales, but bless you if your customers are purchasing from you every day. My understanding of the scrubbed worlds is it's, 3 times a year for sure you get a nice push from an individual shopper based on the fashion side, approach that that side of our industry has adopted. But then throughout the rest of the year, what's going to engage that shopper to come? Are they going to buy something they don't need simply because it's 60% off? Yeah, they might. But more likely they will engage with you because you've caught their interest in some other way. And then once you're catching their interest, they may also stumble upon that sale or that other item or see something that another shopper liked or engaged in, and suddenly they have an interest in purchasing something that they didn't necessarily think about purchasing or didn't necessarily need. Because we are all salespeople, we live with that unfortunate cliche of a really good salesman can sell you something that you actually know you don't need. Scary. That is some thoughts on how to use social media to create traffic, how to think in terms of your search engine optimization strategies. Let us go on now to some of the trends. So some of the statistics that I thought you'd be interested in is that, as we discussed, original content wins. I'm not making that up. The large polls that go out there of all the marketers, 81% plan to increase their use of original content on their social media sites. They're not just reposting things from other places or using that feed, the example that I just gave. 70% plan on increasing their use of visual images rather than just thinking in terms of posting these text posts. 3 out of 4 plan to increase their use of original videos. There are ways to produce videos without being video producers. Again, here's where the kids out there are inventing revolutionary approaches. The 2-second Vine, the Snapchat, all of that is interesting for pure social media and instant interaction, but all of that will start to spill into the larger social media worlds and will start to get more incorporated into tools like Facebook as well. At this point, there is even a way, here was one that I had noticed for everyone. Nope, I don't have it. I had seen something that would allow you to quickly use Instagram actually to create a quick video. So right from your phone, you'd be able to load and then use Instagram to convert and create that video. Of course, YouTube has had that for a while too, so if you're more comfortable with that, taking the video right from your phone, tossing it onto YouTube, adding some keywords, a quick description, putting it within your social media. It does not take as long as everyone thinks and does not need to be as professional as everyone thinks. People want genuine content. They want original content. They want to know that you really did this. What's interesting, everyone, is that Friday has apparently won. Not surprising. We all want to be a little more social on Friday. Maybe that isn't a surprise. It was a little bit of a surprise to me that the actual numbers were so much greater, that 70% of all of the comments and 16% of all the likes are occurring on Fridays. So when you divide the week by 7, you know, that's interesting that this is far greater than that number. Than I would have expected it to be evenly divided. Sunday is the least likely day to receive a comment or a post. And of course, as we said at the top of this, Facebook is still winning as far as generating traffic to retail sites. Some studies even put 75% of the traffic based on, you know, links and advertising coming from Facebook, and that's up from last year. Lastly, and I know that we only have a few more minutes, to manage social media content, depending on the number of outlets you have, if you really only have 2, it's just as easy to log into 2. Here at UniformMarket, and certainly Rick Levine likes to post to a whole bunch of LinkedIn groups, and I often want to say the same thing on those groups. There are tools that can help you do that. One that we've been using, we have no relationship with this company, is called Hootsuite. I just wanted to expose you all, for those that haven't been exposed to this type of tool, just to quickly show you. So this allows me to log in and set up to see the Twitter, either, you know, my own Twitter account, Uniform News, and what's going on, or, you know, here's Sellers Commerce, another one of our companies that I'm monitoring tweets there. From my LinkedIn account, I can see then what's going on across multiple discussion groups without having to actually go to those discussion groups. As you can see, here's my posting actually across a lot of these groups. My post was actually the most recent one yesterday related to this webinar. So then you can schedule, so I could go to Publisher, and again, under the heading of time, you can go and create a bunch of posts, right? And you don't have to do it in real time. I could post these and then schedule this post to run tomorrow or a week from now. So in theory, this isn't necessarily the way I do it, although we have worked this way at times. You can go in, and I could on a Saturday schedule an entire month's worth of posts and then just forget about it. So I may spend 4 hours that Saturday carefully composing all my thoughts and messages, and even promoting events that I know aren't happening for 3 weeks, but it will then post it on the day that the event is happening. Then this is a very convenient way to manage your social media content. As far as then within your website and linking, you know, we did talk about some feeds. You can look in your e-commerce tools also. For instance, here at UniformMarket in our Sellers Commerce platform, we have tools for social media. Under the marketing, you can go to social, and certainly to start with, for the top 2, there is a way to have your Facebook and your Twitter account automatically associated, and then you could post right to the feed of those accounts right from within, you know, the admin tool, where hopefully you're going every day to process orders anyway. You could then take a product that you're putting on special and go right from here, search for that product, you know, write a post about it. It'll include the link to that product or a series of products, or if you wanted to just link to a category of products. So those are 2 examples of automating and scheduling your posts Adobe has out there. There literally are hundreds of tools in this direction. I just wanted to expose you to a few. And then I exposed you to the Sellers Commerce social media tool for posting right out from within your website. WordPress, you know, which 20% of the websites of the world, we're told, operate on WordPress these days, also offers that through plugins, and there are hundreds of others that, you know, that will operate that way. So again, I'm Rick Levine. You've tuned in to a webinar from UniformMarket This is our contact information. These were some of the statistics that I mentioned that I was quoting from the Adobe Digital Index, Social Media Examiner. I believe I've addressed all the questions that were tossed out, but if there are others, let me know at this point. I'll just wait a minute for anyone to speak up. So the only question, which is complimentary, thank you, is that will this webinar be sent out? Last month I did post the webinar to YouTube, and I'll be happy to do that again. And if anyone wants to email me, rick@uniformmarket.com, I can send you a copy of this PowerPoint. It does not have the examples of websites that I clicked to. You'll be able to watch the video, but I did not particularly ask for permission to show those websites, so I certainly don't want to circulate the links without permission. Anybody else? Well, I really thank you all for your time, and happy selling, and good luck posting on social media and getting it done. Thanks. Bye-bye, everyone.